So we need to discuss this. I had another Dokkan Battle video that was actually in the works tonight, and really, I'm going to be honest, guys. This is something that I feel is way too important to talk to not address on this channel. And just to get into it, I'm going to say this. I don't think my brain has fully processed this. I'm way too calm and way too just kind of accepting of what happened here. But apparently, according to this, and I've cross-referenced this a number of times just to make sure we are absolutely looking at the facts and not a some kind of internet prank here. Apparently, according to this press release from Bird Studios and whatever, Akira Toriyama apparently passed away on the 1st of March, 2024. And I know normally we just talk about Dokkan Battle and whatever on this channel, but this is an important enough situation that I feel like I want to get my thoughts down, at least on video, out there, because I have a very similar story to many when it comes to Dragon Ball itself. When I was a teenager, Dragon Ball Z was airing on television, and I had been exposed to it, but I had never really let myself be exposed to it. But I was over at some friends' houses, and one afternoon they happened to be watching it, and they were like adamant. They're like, everything stops to watch DBZ. It's okay, well, fine. So I sat down and watched an episode with these guys, and it actually, funny enough, it's the worst possible episode to start off on, but it was the episode where Goku goes Super Saiyan for the very first time. And while I'm missing, and I can say this from personal experience, while I was missing all of the build-up and all of the years of, from the Saiyan saga, even going back to Dragon Ball forward, while I'm missing all of that, even though I know at the time Dragon Ball hadn't yet aired on television in the States, even then, the way in which that episode is presented to the viewer, even if it's your first episode like it was for me, still the moment that his transformation happens and his hair changes and everything that's happening around him, it still hits you. Like, you still get butterflies. To me, it's kind of that moment where, as the creator of something, you have to think about every single episode in this situation, or manga panel, or whatever, is going to be somebody's first. Every single time you're making something, like even this video, could be somebody's first time coming to this channel. Now, there are people that have been at the OG channel. We'll talk about that here in a moment. But even that episode being like the worst possible episode to be someone's first episode, because you really want the emotional impact of all the buildup, still, I was able to deduce what it really meant. Now, obviously, going back and rewatching it after watching Dragon Ball all the way through, it meant something completely different. But it, to me, is kind of the fundamental reason that Dragon Ball is that cornerstone series for so many people. Now, I am of an age and I'm of a time when anime was out there. It was accessible. It may not necessarily been in vogue, or at the time, a lot of people called it Japanimation, and obviously there were still some old school thoughts in regarding just Japan in general, but it was out there. It just wasn't one of those forefront of the mind things. Though, come to find out, a lot of the shows that I loved as a kid were actually made in Japan, and even some were made by Toei themselves. So it's always been there. But it wasn't really until that moment of watching Dragon Ball with friends and then having that mutual moment to share with everybody that I really kind of came into anime as what it is today. I call it kind of like the gateway to modern anime. In that got me into Gundam. That got me obviously into Fushigi Yugi was one of the next huge series in franchises that I got into. If you don't know that it's a whole different type of story, but it's Still a phenomenal story. One of the really early isekais. Uh, and then from there on, just to experience all of that and to share that with friends and actually, funny enough, family. My father in law is a big Dragon Ball fan too. Um, it's it is an important and arguably cornerstone series, and then after that, going in and exposing myself to the rest of you know, you checking out Doctor Slump and now recently Sandland and other things like that. And then going back into history and going back to the even NES and early PlayStation days where you're like, what we knew as Dragon Warrior, Dragon Quest, and Chrono Trigger, and things like that. There's just all this exposure that we had that we never knew, never understood. This Toriyama's legacy is not something that can be understated. As an anime fan, as a gamer, this dude has left a lasting impact on many, many, many lives, both United States, Japan. I know the Latin American communities are insane about Dragon Ball. This is a moment that is going to affect a lot of people. And I think that's the thing that we need to put in perspective here. It is a huge tragedy and it is a loss. If nothing else, it should be one of those moments where we kind of, sorry if I'm getting a little emotional, because even I'm starting to realize this is something huge that a lot of people are very passionate about. And I think that's the number one thing we need to have perspective on, is that while we are deeply saddened, this is something that is really affecting folks on a global scale. People you have never met and probably will never meet in your life are just as affected and devastated by this on the other side of the world. And that, I think, is an interesting perspective on this, in that, really this is... I think it's kind of nuanced to call it a global phenomenon, but it really is. That's just the legacy that Akira Toriyama leaves behind. And rather than bringing you guys some more gameplay, rather than bringing you guys all that other stuff, I really thought about, is it in bad taste to, to make a video on this when all we've really talked about on this channel is the game? But honestly, the game for me is just another piece of Dragon Ball. I have been consuming this product for 25 years. And now, that this is something that, once again, I'm probably just going to wake up tomorrow morning and it's going to hit me a lot differently than it is right now, because it's the reality that gone, obviously Akira Toriyama himself is gone, but will absolutely never be forgotten. This is probably somebody they'll be talking about 150, 200 years from now. And that's insane to think about, something that we are all experiencing at the same moment that has that kind of legacy. And I don't think it's nuanced to say that. I think it is absolutely true. I think he has had such an impact on animation, on gaming. I mean, gaming's it's just huge right now. And I don't think that's going to change. I think video games are here to stay, and they're definitely becoming a bigger... Let me look at what we do here on YouTube, Twitch, and all that stuff. Video gaming is something that's incredibly mainstream and is now just a part of everyday life for us. So, yeah, I'm trying to gather my thoughts, guys, and I'm sorry if I'm rambling a bit. It just feels incredibly surreal in the moment. This does not feel like real life. This is not what I expected to be hit with at 10:30, 10:45 at night on like a random Thursday night. But if nothing else, if you are having difficulty coping with this, and I'm sure a lot of people are. I mean, many of us, like I said, come from the same background, have the same exposure and same experiences. Many people came into Dragon Ball from as when they were very young, and have kind of been molded by this. Uh, if nothing else, I hope maybe you find some peace of mind in the fact that there's thousands, if not millions, of people out there that probably easily millions of people that right now feel exactly like you do. People that you otherwise would never have had any exposure or connection to. And that, I think, is ultimately more important than the pain we feel right now, the connection that this person has created for anime fans, for Dragon Ball fans, for Dr. Slump fans, for Chrono Trigger fans, for Dragon Quest, Dragon Warrior, if you're my age fans. And I think that's absolutely huge. Once again, a little bit rambly here, but I just wanted to get my thoughts out. I think this is a really... I don't really have any kind of profound words that will help you in this moment, just that I'm here too. Many people are. And if nothing else, we have our memories and our shared experiences of Dragon Ball. And I think that is arguably more important than really anything else in this moment. Best thing we could do is just remember Toriyama, remember the things we enjoyed. And as someone with children, one day I'm going to share this with my kids. My father-in-law and I, and actually my nephew. I've got a teenage nephew who is now getting into Dragon Ball. So, like I said, the best thing we could do is share the legacy. That's really all the more message I've got at this point. Yeah, it still doesn't feel real. But, I like to always kind of wrap this in that kind of like silver lining. And I think that's the best thing we can do is share our love of Dragon Ball with someone else, with the next generation. Because this is just a really, I say important thing, but honestly, I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for Dragon Ball. Everything in my life right now has stemmed from that moment that my friends sat me down in front of that television and I watched that episode for the very first time and was instantly hooked. Like many of us were. So, that's my thoughts. I hope it helps in some weird way. I don't know if it does. I don't know if this is a message that a lot of people are going to absorb. But that's kind of where I'm at right now. Comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. And I'll catch you guys around real soon with more Dokkan Battle. But maybe more Dragon Ball in general. I don't know. We'll see where it goes.